Okay, so in this video I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favourite films from 1978. This is all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and again, this is just my personal favourite top 10. There's no right or wrong to this. This is just based solely on my opinion of what I think of the top 10 best films from that year. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to get into just a handful of honourable mentions. Movies I thought were quite good but just couldn't quite break into that top 10. So my first honourable mention is Woody Allen film Interiors. Great sort of drama film, sort of follows the life of these sisters and some hard-hitting news they get that sort of changes their lives. Next honourable mention for me is a film called The Driver. Great sort of thriller, this one. Definitely recommend it. Next honourable mention is a film called Big Wednesday. Great sort of coming of age film set in San Francisco, California. But yeah, really good film. Definitely worth checking out. Next is a sort of war film called Coming Home, starring Jon Voight and Jane Fonda. Great sort of war film that sort of doesn't really take place in a war. It sort of follows these people and the effects of war that it's had on them. And Jon Voight won Best Actor at the Academy Awards for this as well. My last honourable mention is Terrence Malick's Days of Heaven. Great follow-up to Badlands. Great sort of period drama film. Really interesting. So yeah, they're my honourable mentions. So I'm going to get cracking on with the top 10. So number 10 for me is National Lampoon's Animal House. Not a movie I loved the first time I saw it, but the second time the comedy sort of really grew on me. Yeah, great sort of college film that the 80s was sort of going to get, which this film's sort of like a precursor for in that genre. And John Belushi, who's absolutely hysterical in it, the late great John Belushi. Yeah, fantastic performance from him. Not seen it. Yeah, definitely worth a watch. Number 9 for me is Watership Down. Really disturbing kids movie, filled with nightmarish imagery and violence. It sort of follows this group of rabbits that's one of them has sort of apocalyptic visions that their habitat's going to be destroyed and it's going to lead to the death of pretty much their entire group. Yeah, just probably what this film is most famous for is probably how dark it is for a kids' film. It doesn't shy away from the violence and the blood used in it. It's a really good film though. Fantastic voice acting in it, particularly from John Hurt. Yeah, check it out if you've not seen it. So number 8 for me is a sort of sci-fi horror film, and it's a remake, I believe, from a 1956 film, and that's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It sort of follows this sort of alien planet that's had to abandon its planet because it's dying, and the sort of aliens come to Earth, and they sort of take over humans and replicate them in every single way apart from human emotions, which is a bit of a giveaway. The ending to it is another sort of horror film that ends on a fantastic note. Yeah, really horrifying and creepy ending. So yeah, it's a must see for sort of science fiction and horror fans. Um, yeah, great film. So number 7 for me is sort of music biopic, and that's the Buddy Holly story. Yeah, it's just basically it's a biography picture for Buddy Holly, played by Gary Busey, who's always entertaining in everything he's in. Yeah, the movie ends just before Buddy Holly finished his last concert and sadly was killed along with Richie Valens and the Big Bopper in plane crash. But yeah, no, just a great biopic. I loved it. I've seen it twice now, and yeah, absolutely loved it. So coming in at number 6 for me is again a film I saw once and didn't. It kind of sort of went over my head, and the second time I was just hooked and drawn into it, and that is Midnight Express. Sort of follows a drug smuggler who gets caught and arrested and has to spend. He's sent to a Turkish prison, and he's told by his lawyers, "Oh, it's we're gonna get you out. Meet up with his father. It's not gonna be long now before the charges are dropped." But then it escalates and it just goes into a landslide in the complete other direction, and the performance by the main actor and it's great. It's when he gets told you are gonna have to serve longer in the prison. It's years of being added on, and his performance, he's like, "You've just dangled freedom in front of me, and I've been patient, I've been well behaved, and you're just taking it away from me." It's just phenomenal. A phenomenal performance, and John Hurt's also in it as well, who gives a great performance as well, and it possibly has one of the most satisfying endings to a story like this. I think it's based on a true story as well, but yeah, definitely one worth checking out. Yeah, it's climbing the ranks for this one for me because I just loved it that much. Okay, so coming in at number 5 for me is, again, I sound like a broken record saying this, but it's a film that I didn't really like the first couple of times I saw it, but it grew on me. And it is a musical. It's probably like one of the most famous musical films ever, and that is Grease. Yeah, sort of impossible not to like this film. I absolutely love it. It's great. The music's on point. It's fantastic. The two performances by Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, they're great. They have such good chemistry together. The supporting cast, hysterical and likable. Yeah, it's just the weird bit for me in it is when because Sandy and Danny's relationship, they sort of had this great summer together at the beginning of the film, and then they coincidentally end up at the same school together, and they're telling their friends how their summer was, and then they meet up, and it's just Danny just becomes this complete and utter twat. And it's like, oh, what are you doing, mate? Just stop being a dick to not lose face in front of your friends. But the end of it at the fairground scene is so much fun as well. I've heard lots of fan theories about this film as well, that how Sandy's character is actually in a coma for the entire film, and them driving off in the car together is actually her passing away. I've heard the directors come out and said that that's a load of nonsense though, but I can understand why it can be perceived that way. But yeah, it's not a film that's for everyone. It's like if you don't like musicals, you're obviously not gonna like this. but no, I enjoyed the life out of it, and it's one I hope to watch many more times in the future. So yeah, coming in at number 4 for me is possibly a film that is pretty much on the other end of the spectrum to Grease, and that is Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter. Great sort of war epic, this one. So it follows these group of friends, and we get to see them in their sort of natural habitat and the life they lead. You know, they go on. The film starts off with this wedding, and it shows them going hunting together, hence the title, The Deer Hunter, and they all end up joining the army and going into the Vietnam War. And they eventually get captured and are forced to play Russian roulette for the amusement of the captors. And the sort of last act of the film deals with almost the PTSD of it, and it's quite shocking, the ending. Seeing the descent from normal life into dealing with such a traumatic ordeal. Wonderfully made, though. Best Picture winner as well from this year. Just an absolutely fantastic film. So coming in at number 3 for me is a childhood staple for me, this and its sequel, which I enjoyed just as much. And it is Richard Donner's adaptation of Superman. So if you're not familiar with the story, it sort of follows this alien planet and their highly respected scientist, Jor-El, played by Marlon Brando, pretty much tells the High Council, we've got to evacuate the planet, the core is collapsing. Everyone here is pretty much dead. We've got to save as much of it as we can, and no one believes him. So he sends his only son, Kal-El. He evacuates him from the planet, and he ends up at Earth. And of course, because he's an alien, Earth's sun and Earth's atmosphere gives him superpowers, and he becomes Superman. Great villain in this as well, with Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor and his psychic Otis, played by Ned Beatty. He's absolutely hysterical in this. There's a little problem for me with the ending. It doesn't quite seem logical, given the film's sort of environment and the rules the film set up. Definitely a weaker part of the film, but the beginning and the first 2 acts for me are the strongest in it, and I absolutely love it. It's a great superhero film. Christopher Reeve as well epitomizes Superman. Almost born to play the role. Just looks the part, acts the part, fantastic in it. Great superhero and a great villain, played by 2 great actors who just love to. I love to watch them just play off each other, act off each other, bounce off each other. So great. So coming in at number 2 for me. Well, my top 2 favourites are both horror films from this year. Number 2 for me is John Carpenter's Halloween. I think this film is a sort of perfect example of how to do a horror film and how to be scary with very little equipment and very little, being very, very effective in what it does, just with the use of the cameras and the use of sound and the use of music. The music in the opening credits is just fantastic, composed by Carpenter himself, and it's so haunting. The cast is brilliant. Jamie Lee Curtis's first film. Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis is great in it. The villain of Michael Myers, who's credited as the Shape in the film, just has this terrifying aura about him. The opening scenes, if you don't know, probably for when the time the film came out, was actually quite shocking. Which involves a child and a murder. But it's not what you expect. Movie ends on probably one of the best cliffhangers ever. Did we need a sequel? Probably not, but the way things went, a lot of horror films back in the 70s and 80s sort of started crazy franchises and where they went. But with most franchises, the original always is usually the best. Maybe not most people's favourites, but is usually considered the best and most competent. Yeah, this is one I sort of try to watch sort of every year around Halloween. It drips Halloween as well, even though the film actually wasn't shot in Halloween. In the sort of autumn. I think it was shot in the summer. But yeah, great horror film if you've not seen it. If you love to be scared, yeah, whack it on and you'll have a blast with it. So coming in at number 1 for me is a film I sort of have a love-hate relationship for. It's a very difficult film for me to watch because I saw it so young. And I probably saw it by mistake. There's a lot of history with me in this film. I've not seen it a lot. It's difficult for me to bring myself to watch it sometimes. But that is George Romero's second Dead film in the Dead trilogy, and that's Dawn of the Dead. I first heard of this film when I was really young. I was about 6 or 7, and I remember seeing a documentary on TV about it, funnily enough, with Simon Pegg, who went on to make Shaun of the Dead. And all I remember seeing in this TV documentary about it was these zombies getting absolutely twatted in the face with pies by bikers, and I was like, oh my god, I need to see this film. It just looks so interesting. I need to see it. Well, what's it called? I didn't know what it was called. And then years went by, and then I remember my dad telling me about this film Evil Dead, and he was like, "Oh, it's on telly tonight. I'll tape it and watch it." And this was before internet or anything like that, and it actually wasn't Evil Dead. It was Dawn of the Dead. He just got completely confused, and it was the wrong film. And I ended up watching the entire film on my own. I was hooked by it. This was a sort of era for me when I was watching kids' films and Disney films, and used to films and expecting films to have happy endings, which made me not ready for this one in the slightest. So basically, the premise of the film takes place slap bang right in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. That's how the film starts, and that's how the film ends. I thought that by the end of the film, I thought, oh, the army's going to come and save everyone. No, not the case. So it pretty much starts off at this television station slap bang in the middle of the zombie apocalypse, and everyone's losing their minds, and it's like some people are fleeing, some people are still working, and we end up going to this sort of not a hostel home, but it's a place where people live, and they're refusing to give up the dead, and the SWAT team go in and find that it's sort of like half infested with zombies. And we end up following 4 characters who end up hiding out in a shopping mall. And what sort of drives the film for me is the characters. They are great characters. There's great lines in this film as well. The gore for me is just an 11 out of 10. Great work by Tom Savini, who sort of mastered his makeup effects with the next film in the series. Fantastic scenes of horror as well. Very, very sort of depressing ending though, which really wasn't the director's intent to make. I don't want to spoil the end, but the ending the director wanted to make was even more depressing, and people talked him out of it and said, no, you can't do that. You've got to have some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, no, it's probably arguably the best zombie film ever made, in terms of setting effects, music as well. Just a great score by Goblin. When you're watching it though, it feels so gritty as well. When you watch it, you can almost smell the dead flesh in the air when you're watching it. Fantastic film. I know some people, when they start to watch it, they sort of they check out of the film usually within like the first 20 minutes, but stick with it. The scenes in the mall are just so addictive and so fun to watch. But yeah, as I say, for me it's not an easy film to watch because of how it affected me as a child, but it's one I've grown to sort of love and appreciate more as I've gotten older. But that's why for me it's my number one. I couldn't really put anything else in that spot. The whole trilogy itself is worth checking out. There's I know there's Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead as well in this box set, but the first three are they're masterpieces in their own right, and very sort of underrated trilogy. There's no sort of coherent story to the trilogy. It's three separate scenarios during a zombie apocalypse, and yeah, no, it's a great watch, entertaining as hell, and yeah, that's why it's my number one. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. I should be back soon again with my top 15 favourite films from 1979. Again, couldn't quite narrow down that 1 to 10. There are a lot more films I saw that year, so I'll be back with that list soon. So thanks very much for watching, and take care.